It is now 6 o'clock, and I will call this June 1, 2026 meeting of the Select Board to order. Pursuant to Chapter 2 of the Acts of 2023, amended on March 28, 2025, Governor Maura Healey signed into law an act extending pandemic-related authorizations related to public meetings, allowing hybrid meeting options for public bodies through June 30, 2027. This meeting is being conducted in a hybrid format. If I could please ask everyone to rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. I will grant permission to Westwood Media Center to record the meeting and anyone else who wishes to record the meeting. We thank Evan Cardamino for being with us here tonight from WMC. Good evening, everyone. I'm Mary Ann LeBlanc Cummings, Chair of the Select Board. With me are my colleagues, Erin Sibley and Joe Prevatera. Also joining us at the table on my left are Deputy Town Administrator Molly Fitzpatrick, Town Administrator Reed, and to my right, Town Counsel Pat Ahern, and Assistant to the Town Administrator Tish Healy. Welcome. It's great to see everyone. First day of June. I will also note, how many people do we have attending remotely, Tish?
We have 5 attendees.
We have 5 attendees remotely, and we have 2 residents here in person joining us. Welcome, all of you. I'll launch right into the chair's update. First of all, the library will be very busy in June, celebrating a number of events with book lists and displays and programming, including Alzheimer's and Brain Awareness Month, Great Outdoors Month, National Gardening Week, Juneteenth, Father's Day, the first day of summer, the beginning of the World Cup, and Pride Month. And to that end, the Westwood Pride celebration will take place on June 7th from 1 p.m. to 4 p.m. on the Council on Aging lawn and gazebo, 16 Manhattan Street. Food vendors, including Pollard's and Comellas, will be in attendance, along with community organizations, including Westwood Youth and Family Services. The event will feature live entertainment, lawn games, face painting, balloon art, and crafts for all ages to enjoy. It is always a great event, and I encourage folks to attend. In addition, also on Sunday, June 7th, will be the Firefighters Memorial, in memoriam of our firefighters who have passed, and particularly those who have passed in the line of duty. That will take place at 10 a.m. at FS2 in Islington. And all members of the public are invited to join. I also want to highlight, as we do at every meeting, our board and committee vacancies. And again, to encourage folks to get involved, particularly if you haven't been involved in town government before. Resident participation helps us build a stronger, more responsive local government. The Select Board is looking for interested volunteers to fill vacancies on the following boards and committees: the Board of Health, the Cemetery Commission, the Commission on Disability, the Conservation Commission, the Historical Commission, the Housing Partnership Fair Housing Committee, Pedestrian and Bicycle Advisory Committee, the Recreation Commission, and the Westwood Cultural Council. Tish Healy had the brilliant idea to highlight each of the committees on which we are seeking volunteers each meeting, so that folks can get a better understanding as to what these committees actually do. But that is not to the exclusion of folks calling with questions, contacting any of us if you'd like to know more about any of the boards or committees. But this meeting, we are highlighting the Recreation Commission, which is seeking several members. If you love community events, if you're passionate about Westwood, if you're interested in seeing Westwood as an active place to live, the Recreation Commission is for you. The Recreation Commission is a volunteer advisory and policy-making board made up of residents appointed by the Select Board. Members help shape and support year-round recreation programs, community events, athletic fields, and town recreation facilities, from family events and sports programs to creative activities and community initiatives. The commission works to ensure that there's something for everyone in Westwood, encouraging physical, social, athletic, educational, and creative growth across the community. So if you're a longtime coach, dedicated volunteer, or someone with great town spirit, it's a wonderful opportunity to be involved and make a positive impact. If you are interested in volunteering for the Recreation Commission or any of the boards I mentioned, please get involved. You can visit the town website and check the news section for more details on current opportunities. Residents interested should submit a resume along with a statement of interest to Tish Healy at phealy@westwoodma.gov. That's P. Healy, Healey, at westwoodma.gov. Or you can call the town administrator's office at 781-326-4172. With that, just a couple more items. If you haven't noticed yet, the left-hand turn in Islington Center from Washington to East Street, we have a resident clapping here, is in service. Joe, I know your prayers have been answered, but
I'll admit it, I was doubting for a while, but Mary Ann, you pulled me up.
we got it done. It's a great improvement, something many of us have wanted to see there for a long time. So that's great to see. And lastly, just a shout out to the DPW. If you all noticed today, our streets are clear. And that didn't happen magically. It happened through a lot of hard work. I'm sure you all saw them out there early this morning if you were up and about. They were working to clean up all of that blowdown from the storm over the weekend. So shout out to our amazing DPW who always does a great job. With that, I will turn it over to Connor Reed for the town administrator's update.
Sure. Thanks, Mary Ann. A couple of updates from the board, a couple of items that I've just given status reports on at a few of your recent meetings. The first one is update from the DOT Route 1 design process and the Costco permitting. On May 27th, representatives from Mass DOT, Costco, Ty and Bond Engineering, the town of Norwood, and the town of Westwood met to discuss both the planned Route 1 intersection improvements that DOT is working on, as well as the proposed Costco development. Just some important background there that I think the board is aware of, but for anyone listening to the first time in the public, the DOT intersection improvement project, these are multi-year and sometimes more than 1 decade-long planning processes. That design process was already underway with DOT before this project had been proposed in Norwood. So the design didn't necessarily take into consideration the Costco proposal. And the Route 1 DOT project is currently programmed for construction in 2028. That's not something that's necessarily directly within the control of the town. These are typically funded through what's called the TIP pipeline. That's Traffic Improvement Program that gets funded through regional planning entities using state and federal highway dollars. But 2028 with a project already in design sounds like it's pretty far away, but that'll actually come reasonably quickly as far as these things go. Costco has a traffic study that they need to perform for Norwood as part of permitting. That is underway now. It's expected to be complete in the fall of this year. The findings of a traffic study will be incorporated into the ongoing design for DOT before getting to that kind of construction phase for the DOT project. Both Norwood and Westwood's DPW, so who are working together and will now be meeting routinely with DOT, as part of this design process, along with Costco reps, have strongly advocated for a broader traffic impact analysis relating to this and the project, specifically including Canton Street, Everett Street, Forbes Road, Upland Road and the Clappertree Street intersection. Costco's engineers are also evaluating the possibility of adding a new signalized intersection at Route 1 and Walper Street ahead of the DOT intersection construction project. That is pending their own engineering and traffic study, which is ongoing. If a new intersection is added, it could provide direct southbound Route 1 access into the Walper and Purwall area, could reduce queuing near the proposed Costco driveway on University Ave, and it could divert some Costco-bound traffic away from the southbound Washington Street and the Everett University and Route 1 intersection. So from here, the town's going to continue working with Norwood and DOT as both the DOT project moves through its process and Costco moves through its permitting process. There's a recurring coordination call the DOT leads, I believe DOT leads, that Westwood DPW will be at each of those. Every 3 weeks. We will keep working with Norwood and keep track of where that traffic study development is going. Again, the work product, so to speak, is expected in the fall. And once those study results are received, that will help us develop a clearer understanding of the overall traffic implications associated with that project, how that is related to the Route 1 Everett Street University Ave project, and how we could best make sure that we are advocating for a project that has the least negative impact to Westwood and has the most benefit to Westwood and Norwood. So we always have a right, and we'll be working with DPW and our engineers to be ourselves reviewing that work as that goes. So I just want to say thank you to Todd at DPW, Nora, and planning for really getting involved with that process, and that's where things stand for now. On the police chief search update for the board, as that's an appointment you will be making this summer. Resumes were due to our consultant, Paro and Associates. As with any executive search, that stage is kind of confidential, but I can share that we did receive 18 candidates. Tomorrow, there is a kind of public meeting, community conversation with Paro Consulting and Associates that will be held Tuesday here at the library from 6 to 7:30 p.m. It'll be an informal setting for residents to share with the consultants what they're hoping to see in the next chief of police for Westwood. And then the town will initiate the interview process. So of the 18 candidates, we plan, along with the one internal candidate, to be moving 6 forward. And although it is to be determined based on how each of those perform in the 3 phases of interviews, generally a good goal that we would like to find ourselves in by July is to bring 3 finalists forward to the select board. Again, I reserve the right come July that if people back out, or if maybe there's more candidates that we want to make your choice particularly difficult and give you more, that maybe it's 4, maybe it's 2, but 3 is usually a good target of finalists for a select board appointee. So that is where both of those processes stand. I'm happy to answer any follow-ups from the board if you have any.
Was there any discussion about at some point having a public meeting in regards to the Costco endeavor?
Yes, I had floated that as something we could do with the board, provided schedules lined up, but with vacations, we couldn't do it tonight. So that's why I gave a kind of informational update from planning and DPW. I can circle back with those 2 departments, and if they're available on the 22nd.
It's on your radar.
It is,
Yeah.
yes. I'm just trying to make sure everyone is available and can bring them in for a more formal item.
You talked about the traffic study, Connor. What do you see as our options in the event we think that study needs to be a bit broader in terms of looking at the traffic implications once we see it?
So DPW maintains a variety of existing on-call engineering services contracts with plenty of competent firms in this space. So without speaking for Todd, because I haven't gone into that level of hypothetical, I think it would be reasonable that we could either through the existing contract or perhaps a small change order if necessary, do a broader analysis if we felt it was necessary.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Great.
We will now move into public comments, and folks who are attending online can use the Q&A or raise their hand if they have a comment. But first, we'll ask if any of the 3 residents here would like to make a comment. You're welcome to. Seeing none, do we have any comments online, Tish?
No questions, no hands raised right now.
just give that a moment in case someone is typing. We want to give folks the opportunity. Guessing people are enjoying the sunshine while we have it briefly. Nothing, Tish?
Nothing right now. Let me just double check. No, no open questions.
Okay. Well, there may be some that come up later, so I think we can move on our agenda to scheduled action, the first of which is the FY27 release of capital funds. I will turn this over to our town administrator.
Sure, thanks, Mary Ann. Attached to the board's packet is a memo from the budget director laying out the request for the board to vote to release capital funding that was appropriated for fiscal year 27 by town meeting on May 4th. There was $8,838,500 approved at town meeting. It is being requested to be released at this time. Doing so at the beginning of the fiscal year allows the departments to get to work expeditiously. It's particularly important for things that are seasonally contingent, road projects, school-related projects where you want to get as much of that done during the summer when the students are not in, things of that nature. This is an additional step that, since I believe fiscal 2010, the select board in Westwood and the town has, through your motions at town meeting, included, I suppose I could put Pat on the spot and ask for the history there, but I believe that was probably cash flow related during.
It was cash
session.
flow related. There was, what used to happen was July 1, everyone would rush to use the capital. And we wanted it, for cash flow reasons, we wanted to spread it out
Right.
across the fiscal year.
And
But
thankfully,
a lot of the work needs to get done in the summer.
thankfully, the financial condition brought more broadly, but in Westwood as well, is much stronger now than at that point. But that has just been a practice that has stuck. And so you have in here, it's certainly not a bad reminder for the board, itemized out in each article, the municipal, the schools, sewer improvements, capital, what those items are. There is no diversion in this memo from what was reviewed extensively through the select board process starting last fall, the FinCom process in the spring, and town meetings appropriations. So if the board is willing, I would respectfully request a vote to release those funds as noted in your packet.
Thank you, Connor. Any discussion? Hearing none, I will entertain a motion.
Sure, I move for the select board to approve the release of the fiscal 27 capital funding totaling $8,038,500 to the various departments, contingent upon all procurement procedures and checklists being fulfilled.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous vote in favor. Thank you, Connor. We will move on to an FS1 update. I will turn to you, Molly, and I do appreciate that we have Ford Spalding here, the chair of the FS1 steering committee. Thank you for being here.
A very brief update, just wanted to share that the doors of the sprung structure were installed late last week and hooked up. Today will be the first day that firefighters resume overnight coverage in Station 1, which is great to hear. So that's the update I have for today.
That's great. It's been a long time coming since February. Thank you, Molly. And now also related to FS1, we're very pleased to have with us today PMA Consultants. PMA, to remind folks, is our owner's project manager on the FS1 feasibility schematic process. And will one of you be introducing them, or
Sure, I'm happy to just give a brief overview. I always think it's great to use this as an opportunity to break down acronyms for folks. You're going to hear OPM thrown around a lot from here through whenever we hopefully have our third final successful vote on FS1. OPM is an owner's project manager. What that means is it is a firm who's really, they have a lot of jobs, and Walter and his team will talk about that tonight, but the most important job for something that residents of Westwood should care about is their job is to represent Westwood. It's to represent the town, which includes all of its taxpayers and residents, to be the intermediary between the select board, town administration, and the FS1 steering committee, and all the various experts that we need to rely on to do every part of this process, from engineering and design to procurement to permitting, assisting us working with our team on building financial packages for these projects, so that there is an extra set of eyes who is accountable to us to make sure that everyone is rowing together, working in concert to get us the fire station project that we need, nothing more, nothing less. And so we went through a competitive procurement process this winter and spring while the pre-feasibility work from Weston and Sampson was ongoing, had a really good showing of interest from a market of folks wishing to be the OPM for this project for Westwood, and ultimately selected PMA to serve as OPM on this project. And we are excited to have them here tonight to introduce themselves, talk a little bit about the pre-feasibility, and to walk through some of the fast approaching but exciting realities that now that voters have thankfully entrusted us with feasibility and schematic funding on May 4th, we have work to do, and we have a fire station to build, so.
And if I may, I just want to say that I believe all of us on the board either participated in or watched the FS1 steering committee meeting at which you presented. So we have seen that, but we are hoping you'll make your full presentation, understanding that a lot of folks will be watching this meeting and may not have watched that meeting. So warm welcome to all of you. Thank you.
Absolutely, thank you. Thank you, Connor, for that introduction. So tonight, we'll go over team introductions and a little bit of a firm introduction as well. We'll take you through that pre-feasibility study update that was completed by Weston and Sampson. We'll walk through the designer selection process, schedules, next steps, and then a local funding discussion that will be really the focus of this select board for our project as we move through the summer months. A little bit of community outreach update, and then any Q&A that the group has. So we'll get right into it. PMA is a national firm. Our local office is in Braintree, 300 nationally, 100 locally. 3 groups at PMA at our Braintree office. Our group specifically focuses on OPM, so we don't chase projects as designers, we don't chase projects as anything but OPMs, as Connor mentioned. We have 17 public safety projects. If you count the combined, there are 20 total, 9 specifically fire stations. And our resume is our own. Any projects that you see listed that our references are on, they're projects that we have completed as PMA consultants. They're not bought, they're not purchased. They're projects that the PMA team themselves have completed. So with us tonight, I have, I'm Walter Hartley. I've been with PMA for 15 years. I have Seamus O'Connor, project manager, and Matt Muto with me as well, assistant project manager. Chad Crittenden, project executive, is not here. I've worked with Chad for over 15 years. And Julia Roberto, our community outreach and marketing support staff, who is local to our Braintree office, is also going to be helping with our community outreach effort, which we heavily focused on during our interview and see as one of the critical needs for the Fire Station 1 project. So that's a quick update on and firm introduction and PMA team introduction, and we'll get right into the pre-feasibility study report that was completed by Weston and Sampson. So the Weston and Sampson team, I believe they started in February, if I'm not mistaken, maybe March, but they undertook a lot of important work that would need to be completed as part of a feasibility study, specifically identification of wetlands and vernal pools on the potential sites. So that did not include the existing fire station as that was previously completed, but it did include Deerfield and lot, I'm going to get the name wrong, 14131. That's how we refer to that landlocked site. But the identification of wetlands and vernal pools really needs to be taking place in the spring to make sure that you have it properly done. If it's done in the summer or fall, it's really not a representation of what's out there. So those were completed. The anticipated zoning analysis for the town of Westwood and any regulatory issues that might be set was also completed. There are memos for both sites that are available on the FS1 project page. They also did some test fit concepts. These are not your project. These are potential ways that a project of this scope and size could fit on the parcels. Those are inclusive of, are included in the formal report that Weston and Sampson prepared for the town. So all of those documents are available on the FS1 website, and they'll be used by the designer or the selected designer to inform a lot of the feasibility work that's going to be taking place once we get a designer on board. The good news is that the conclusion of that report was that both of those two sites are feasible to house a program for the fire substation, for the fire station. And we'll get through a little bit of the detailed work that was completed. I want to mention PMA are not designers. We can read the reports, but Weston and Sampson is really the technical analysis that would answer it. So we're really going over a high-level summary of what they completed over the last few months for the town. So, at 72 Deerfield Ave, you can see on your screen a lot of wetlands, a lot of markings that are around the site. And some things to note specifically there's some minor wetlands that are highlighted in the lime green. And then there's an intermittent stream that is highlighted in the cyan color. It is the one lone single line, and I don't believe there's a laser on this, but is the one lone single line that is behind the houses that are on High Street. The yellow dashed line is a 35-foot buffer. The purple is a 100-foot buffer from the wetlands and the intermittent stream. That being said, there is a 10-foot zone pending, and we're waiting for clarification from Town of Westwood internally. There's a 10-foot zone buffer that's for properties that have been delineated prior to 1998, which we believe this site was, but we're waiting for final confirmation on that. But the regulatory status, the site is not located within priority habitat, no vernal pools, and no Article 97 land, which is protected open space, which you'd need to replicate if you were going to do any type of land swap. Wetlands observed were bordering vegetated wetlands and then the bank in the intermittent stream. So this is the kind of the regulatory areas that Weston and Sampson was able to identify as part of the 72 Deerfield Ave study. And with that, we'll move over to lot 14-131, which is a little bit different, much more vegetated. It has bordering vegetated wetlands, which you can see highlighted in the lime dash green area on the right side of the screen. However, the project is not located within, or the proposed site of the project is not located within priority habitat. No vernal pools were identified, and it's not located on Article 97 land. But there are buffer zones that are in there. You can see the 35-foot again, and then you can also see the 100-foot buffer zone. So any project that is within that 100-foot buffer zone does have a notice of filing with Conscom. Any project in almost any town would have that filing. But notices of intent are very common. So like I said, both of these sites, as determined by Weston and Sampson, were determined to be feasible. Further, they also looked at flood zones on both of the sites. Neither of the sites were located within special flood zone areas, so there would be nothing requiring those sites for any type of permitting issue or any type of special foundation system or building elevations to be met for those reasons. And then we're going to move over to our test fits, or Weston and Sampson's test fits. So the first test fit you see here, and again, I just want to reiterate, these are not final project, these are just high-level, concept-level test fits to show that a potential project is feasible on these sites. So what you see here is the proposed project at the Deerfield site, or a proposed project at the Deerfield site, showing a one-way response only drive out to High Street. For everyone looking at the screen and who doesn't know the site, that is actually part of the parcel. It is existing, it is not an easement, it goes all the way out to High Street. I believe it is about 20 feet wide. Returning fire equipment and emergency response equipment would be anticipated to or could potentially travel down Westwood Glen to Deerfield Ave, lights and sirens off when returning to the station, and come back into the station that way. What's also shown here is the existing school, the existing Deerfield School remaining there. One of the fields is able to remain. The building is not currently, as shown, situated within any buffer zones. And the apparatus bay is approximately 300 feet from any neighboring homes. It leaves a lot of opportunity for the school to be utilized for future purposes. It leaves the access to High Street. So there are a lot of beneficial pieces to this puzzle when looking at a project situated this way. It does have drive-through bays, so first response, second response coming out and being able to have the correct turnaround radiuses for the equipment, sufficient parking, sufficient living quarters, and administration spaces as Fire Station 1 currently holds fire admin. So that was concept 1 that Weston and Sampson developed. Concept 2, a little bit different and a little bit different of a layout, does show the building or portions of the building coming down with the opportunity for some type of community center or community building for the town of Westwood. Not to say that that's part of the project at all, it's just showing a high-level test fit scenario that options are available. Again, the field remains. It does show a two-way access out. There are some potential concerns with how wide that gets on encroaching on properties on either side, so it would absolutely need to be further studied to ensure that that's something that is feasible. But again, the return does continue back from the same route, Sirens off, Westwood down, sorry, get the name wrong. Westwood Glen down to Deerfield. And the anticipation on this would be just to show that there are different scenarios that are available on different, on the same site. So it does show that parking, it does keep the field. Again, apparatus bay, still about 300 feet from any neighbors. Building, again, is not situated within any type of buffer zones. However, there would be paving out to High Street. So those are the 2 concept levels that Weston and Sampson created at Deerfield. And then we'll take a look at the concept level plan at lot 1431. So the one thing to note about this is that an easement is required to get out to High Street. There is a current easement. Whether that is able to sufficiently work for the vehicles exiting and returning would need to be further studied, but easements are an option and would be required to be studied as part of a feasibility study, along with input from FS1 steering committee, with select board input, and with board's input in the town. The building, as shown, is not currently situated within any buffer zones, and is apparatus bay remains 300 feet away from neighbors. And then Weston and Sampson is showing a minimum 50-foot tree buffer for anything proposed. So you can see the green space around the parking areas, trying to maintain that buffer between any abutters of that proposed property.
Walter, if I could just jump in and clarify, when we were talking about buffer zones, and Molly, correct me if I'm wrong, Weston and Sampson was also asked not only to look at buffer zones, as I think typically when we talk about that in this setting, we're talking about wetland buffer zones. We were also asked to look at zoning setbacks and
Correct.
height, dimensional standards. And so one of the reasons why these are showing as single-story buildings is that Weston and Sampson's analysis was not only that these are outside of, not the building itself is outside of wetland buffer triggers, but also complies with zoning setbacks as far as distance from property lines and the height of the building. And that's important and has a nexus with cost because the existing site is so tight, so oddly shaped from a verticality standpoint that it required a significant number of variances. Is that fair?
That's right.
Okay.
That is a great point, yes.
Great.
So Weston and Sampson's, both of their zoning memos identify those stipulations as well, those characteristics of each of these concepts as well. So.
And the reason why they're showing the apparatus distance from the nearest home is because the existing station is roughly 125, right?
That's also correct, yes.
125 feet
From the nearest home. And so, given, the level of feedback from abutters, which is, you know, legitimate and fair, right? A change like this being considered as a real concern. We thought it was useful to identify, you know, what kind of tree buffer does a concept like this show, and how does this, because again, I mean, you're looking at an aerial two-dimensional test fit. We appreciate the test fits from Weston and Sampson, but maybe still difficult to visualize. So the comparison that the existing FS1 has apparatus bay within 125 feet of homes, wanting to understand with how these are shown, what is the nearest home to the apparatus bay? And I think that was specific to the apparatus bay, not to, you know, the administrative end.
That's correct.
Right?
Yep, it is specific to the
We
apparatus.
didn't want to kind of pump the numbers and say, oh, it's, you know, farther of a building, the most extreme corner of the building, like the apparatus bay is usually the loudest part.
Yep.
And so that doesn't mean that this delegitimizes any of those concerns. It's more a reflection that we hear those concerns and want to put that data out there.
And is that 300 feet, whether it's the front of the bay or the back of the bay?
It's any point, I'm
Any
sure that the
point
radius was the nearest point of so if it was the front of the bay, it's to that side of the house. If it was the back of the bay, it would be to the next nearest.
Got it, thank you.
And all of the test fits were just single-story buildings?
Yes, that's correct.
Thank you.
That is correct. So with that, I'm gonna turn it over to Shane to take us through an update on designer selection process.
Okay, so I'll just give a high-level overview of the designer selection process. I know Connor mentioned at the beginning that we got the approval from town meeting to go ahead with the project in early May. So immediately following that, we worked with the procurement office and the designer selection panel to develop the RFQ for the designer. That stands for Request for Qualifications. So that went live in mid-May, I think it was May 18th. And we've seen very good interest from architecture firms. I think we've had about 15, 20 individual architects pull the documents. So we're expecting a good result when we receive proposals at the end of this week. So on a high level, we've developed the RFQ. It's now on the street, and proposals are due on Thursday. They're due on Thursday at 11, and then once they come in to the procurement office, we will immediately begin reviewing them, and then we'll meet with the designer selection panel to shortlist, and then we move forward with interviews. So when we get proposals on Thursday, we will immediately take them and we'll begin our review of all proposals that come in, with the hope that we can help the selection panel narrow it down to 3 that we'll interview next week. So what we do is we immediately verify that all the submissions have all the technical requirements they need, all the certifications are signed, all the certifications are there, and everything's in good order, and nothing's missing. Additionally, we prepare fact sheets and sub-consultant matrices so that when the selection panel is reviewing each proposal, they have kind of an apples and apples comparison for all designers, so that nothing gets confused in the way things are laid out. And then the big thing is we will perform reference checks. So we'll call all these proposals, past experience, any of their references, and we'll make sure that people they've worked with in the past recommend them to, work with the town of Westwood. And so this is an example of one of the fact sheets. This is an example from, I think, the Shrewsbury project, where we will take all the proposals, do our review, and then, green means good, purple means troublesome, and then yellow means neutral. And we will give kind of our first pass for what we see when we review all these proposals, and then we'll turn all this information over to the designer selection panel so that they can make an informed decision when they go to shortlist. And for the shortlisting process, we plan to meet on the 5th to review all the proposals and to shortlist for interviews. So the designer review committee will review all the proposals and select roughly at least 3, we're hoping, to interview the following week. The designer review committee is the same committee that was put together for the OPM review, And the process for that is going to be very similar, whereas all the interviews are going to be filmed and posted for viewing. So we'll meet on Friday to shortlist and notify all the firms on Friday. And then the goal is to meet on Wednesday, June 10th, to interview the applicants. And with that, hopefully we can recommend a designer following that. So if that all goes well, I'll turn it over to Matt to discuss overall schedule.
Thanks, Seamus. All right, I'll be touching on schedule. So Seamus went over the design, the RFQ that got sent out. We had a site visit with the architects last week. We had a pretty good turnout. There was probably about 20 people there between architects and other disciplines. We received questions after that and issued one addendum, and then we have a second addendum going out tomorrow. And as Seamus said, the designer responses are due Thursday at 11, and they'll be shortlisted Friday at 10 a.m. Following that, the interviews will be conducted and then negotiate with the selected respondent. Hopefully have an anticipated execution of contract on the 1st of July. And then this just shows like a 2-month look ahead. So June, it's pretty decent. Just shows exactly what I was just mentioning. And then July, it looks blank, but there will be quite a bit of coordination with the designer when they are on board.
So we'll really need the designer's work plan for feasibility, which is one of the first documents that we're going to request from them, likely as those negotiations are ongoing with them for contract. And that work plan is really going to develop what July and August look like for scheduling, and specifically for public engagement sessions and for the steering committee to be able to provide meaningful updates, to be able to provide meaningful discussion where decisions can be made. Without that work plan, we're really taking a stab in the dark at when the designer will have necessary documents ready to be reviewed. So we don't want to put something up there that isn't able to be met, and we want to be able to work with them and show that the process and the schedule is being met as we move through. So I think with that, we will get into the discussion on. Did it freeze?
I'm sorry, can we just back up? I have a couple of quick questions.
Yeah, absolutely.
About this phase with two general questions. The first is, how does the designer, right now we're still considering 3 sites. How does the designer, once they are on board, what are we asking them to do with respect to the 3 sites? Because I realize they can't go all the way down the road with each of the sites, but what is the ask for them sort of initially?
High level, what that's going to look like is they're going to be reviewing the programmatic needs and confirming the programmatic needs. The FS1 steering committee has been working through that, so they have a very good idea of those items. But that's going to be one of the first things the designer looks at, and that's going to inform specifically what needs to go in the building, and so that informs how much square footage is needed for a proposed project. From there, they're going to take those, and I don't want to call those test fit scenarios. I would call them feasibility level scenarios, where we're going to be able to develop project scopes, and specific to each of those sites, there's going to be potential risks at each of them. They're all going to be different, but the designer, the OPM, and the cost estimator are going to need to look at those sites and come up with the varying, what is driving the cost and what potential risks need to be assigned more cost to allow the steering committee to make an informed recommendation or decision on which site might be more conducive or, I don't want to say the least expensive.
Right.
The best option for the town of Westwood is it's going to present itself based on the way that it's looked at. So the feasibility needs to look at the risks associated with each of those sites, and then overall what can be done on those sites. So that's kind of a high level, and I don't want to go into too much detail on what the designers, like how they do that, but they do have, it's very standardized process, but it's specific to the town of Westwood. So it's, once you get to the town that you're working in, and once you can understand those sites, but, one of the considerations would be at Deerfield, that intermittent stream. If something needs to be done there, there might be a little bit of cost associated with that, and that might reflect in the estimates, whereas another site might have something riskier that needs to be carried in the estimates. So that would do the benefits and pros and cons of each site that way.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
And the other question, this actually was asked me by a resident, and I thought it was a very good question, and you've done a number of these types of projects before, and the question was, when we hire a designer, are they starting from scratch, like a blank piece of paper? And I know each site is different, but this resident had sort of said, like, can you look at fire stations that have been made, built in other towns recently, or even currently under construction, and sort of borrow plans and things like that? I mean, I know every town is different and every site is different, but also fire stations, programmatic needs, I would imagine, are somewhat similar from similar towns and similar geographic areas. And the question was asked to me, well, why can't we go and borrow plans from Needham or another town? And maybe this is a naive question, but I would love
No, not
an
an
answer.
Yeah, not a naive question. Also, probably a little bit twofold. The first one, programmatically, almost all fire stations and how they operate are different. They have staffing scenarios on how they respond to calls, but the staffing levels at each town are different. It's 2-station model, 3-station model, 1-station model, 10-station model, all slightly different. So that all feeds into the program as well. Response times kind of drives that as well, but that's kind of how, so you want to assess that as well. Borrowing plans would be incredibly difficult. The MSBA had a model school program. They scrapped it. It has now since come back. But the one big thing about that is the site. You can't shoehorn, the existing building, for instance. That building couldn't just be put on another site because it's built on a cliff, theoretically.
Right.
So really, you need to be able to develop your foundation plan. There may be organics at the site that you need to clear and go down to suitable soil. You may need to have grade beams. You may need to have a soil stabilization package as well. On the last few jobs we've done, we have had rammed aggregate piers where we take a drill and we go down 40 feet, fill it with stone, compact it to stabilize the soil because the liquefaction factor of the soil just isn't good enough. It's not going to hold up the building. But with those piers, you can do it, and you can eliminate some cost for foundation grade beams and for schedule. So you can get an early package in the ground, you can advance the schedule, mitigate risk on that end. So there's a lot of different variables that would not lend to take that fire station, build it here.
Okay.
However, everything that has been done in the town of Westwood to date is going to be given to the selected designer, and they're gonna squeeze every bit of lifeblood out of it that they can to help inform their decision, and make their, help the steering committee make their informed decision. So whatever can be done, or whatever can be used, will be used.
Okay.
But unfortunately, it's not as simple as pick up a design and drop it on a site.
Understand.
Yep,
Thank you.
no problem.
Before you get into local fund, were you going to say something, Ryan?
No.
Okay. Before you get into local fund, I have a couple of questions. One is, the one thing we never want to hear is, why didn't you people check A, B, or C? Who's responsible for checking the design, I'm going to call them, I'm sorry, I'm old-fashioned, I thought they were architects, but the architectural staff, as far as the Mass Complaint Board, who is going to be responsible to check that board to see if there are complaints about the firm?
The PMA team is happy to,
I'm asking who?
PMA.
There's no name? Who's
Walter,
the- who's-
Seamus, Matt,
Yeah,
Chad,
it'll be
Julia,
a team
everyone,
effort. It'll be a team
it is a
effort,
team
yeah.
effort. We do not operate individually, we work as a team. Reference checks come in on Thursday, PMA will be performing them.
So you'll be checking the review board?
We have not checked the review board, but if that's something that the designer selection subcommittee would like us to check, we are happy to do so. I'm not sure that we'll get an answer from them that same day, but as soon as we get one, we're happy to share that. We typically have a very good relationship with a lot of the designers that we see, and we're aware of complaints. I am not aware of any firm that is currently on there that has a designer review complaint, but we're happy to check that. If that's something that if that's something the designer selection subcommittee would like us to do.
If I were building my home, I'd like to know.
Yep, we check project references. That is typically what we check.
I understand that.
Yep.
I'm just talking about, we don't want to be faced with, they had a complaint before the review board, didn't you check them?
Not a problem.
Second question is, and this is for the group, Molly, you'll probably play a big role in this, is, and Ford, I'm glad you're here, but you said something about the designer will look at the information from the FS1 steering group as far as program needs. And I can assure you, Ford and I are on the same boat as far as hearing the word program needs. How have the program needs changed from 12 weeks ago to today?
I would say that they haven't. I would say that we would have the designer review the work that the previous design was based on, those programmatic needs, as well as the product produced by the FS1 steering committee, and make any comments that they deem necessary.
So in essence, the program needs have not changed or have not been reevaluated. In other words, what I guess I'm getting at is, Joe, you know the town wasn't going to go for a 500,000 square foot station. How did you evaluate, or what did you look at to downsize it?
Some of that's going to be the direction that we give the designer, which I myself will give to the designer, and I believe would be well supported by the FS1 steering committee, as they've said it as well, which is where we can reuse work product that makes sense to be efficient on spending, we will, but we are very sensitive to, and I think this might even come up really when there was more kind of foundational questions of why are we doing this again? We're not going to pay a firm to come in and just do the same thing, because that plan failed to win voter approval. So they will be expected to take a critical review of the last program, both from a operating perspective, which you then back out the design needs from. What I selfishly do not want to do in my role serving the select board is be in front of you in a few months and say, we went through all of this and here's the new design, it's the same design, right? So they will be specifically asked to functionally, calling it a peer review is not necessarily appropriate, but to have, if it is a new firm, take a new look at what were the assumptions that were baked into the programming from an operating and staffing perspective. Where are areas where we could think differently about that without harming the fire department's ability to do its job? Because I think Walter might have said none of us want to use the word cheap, but I think it's quite clear we all want to be cost effective, right? And so that message will be impressed on the designer from day one.
Okay, so the program needs haven't changed, but you'll be reevaluating those needs with the fire department leadership and with the architectural or the design person, is that correct?
And I would also say that how programmatic needs are designed, outlined, shaped, depends largely on the site. So the programmatic needs built on the existing site could be incorporated in, say, a different way on a flatter site. So it's taking the programmatic needs that have been identified and say, okay, how could this be designed this way? How could it be designed this way? In addition to doing this, I like peer review is.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I think a good example is the number of bays, right? That drives a lot of square footage, as this board is more aware of than I am. One of the things that really contributed to 5 bays on the existing site is that you can't have drive-through bays, right? So if you have a flatter site, which is why I think FS1 found the other two as potentially viable, that may open up some opportunities where if you have drive-through bays, not only is that more functional, but it could result in a cost savings because perhaps you could make that work with 4. Okay. So that's the kind of thing that I assure you and the board and the public from day one. I'll speak for myself. I have every confidence. Molly, Chief Lund, Ford, and the team will be in the same boat of we don't want to be penny wise and pound foolish on the project, but it is not lost on me or I think any of us that being as cost conscious and cost effective as possible is going to require that we take a look at that programming, because the programming drives the design. It's up to Mary Ann.
Sure. Ford
I
Spalding.
am Ford Spalding, Chair of the FS1 Steering Committee. Joe, I think they've answered it just the way I would, except I'll be a little more forward. There are some aspects, without getting into details, that we have talked about at FS1. What we would like to do is be able to talk to our OPM and a designer on what makes sense. And that might have some things to do with the number of rooms we have for fire people, personnel to stay. It might have some aspects of the administration space and what can be used. So there are some changes. They're not going to be drastic changes, because basically a fire department needs, certain bays, et cetera. But we have already thought about this, and we're going to have those discussions, and the people are going to be able to see those discussions and what we're looking at. So each element will be examined and discussed.
Great, thanks, Ford. Now I'm ready for, unless you have another question.
No, I was just going to ask, this designer review committee was appointed by the FS1 committee, is that?
No, it was appointed through procurement and administration, which is typical, but we asked that, we have citizen representation from FS1, both on the OPM panel and on the design process as well.
Okay, and will they be involved, once the designer is selected, is their work done, or will they be involved still with working with the designers?
Well,
both.
that deliverable is done, but
Yes.
if you could go back to the slide just showing by virtue of their positions,
They remain involved.
they will be involved throughout, right? Myself, Molly, the fire chief, assistant chief, director of community and economic development in FS1. So, yeah, we will absolutely, this is, and I think I appreciate the question, because I think sometimes, and I won't, get into Monday morning quarterbacking, how other towns do their projects, but, and perhaps PMA will do so for me. Some communities will bring an OPM on and say, okay, there's your scope of work and your job, go do it, report to us occasionally. I don't think that's how Westwood approaches it. It's certainly not how I have approached it in my career, so that the administrative leadership, whether we are asked specifically to come to an FS1 steering committee or by the board to have an item, we will be involved. This is a absolute top priority for all of us as part of our professional responsibilities to the town and to you.
Good, that was my point, thank you. I was just very happy to see that the chief and the assistant chief were on that committee.
Absolutely.
And want to make sure that they continue to be involved.
Absolutely.
One or both of them have been at every FS1 steering committee meeting, and they will continue.
Good, thank you.
And I just want to double click on what you've all said here. Given that this is our first time meeting all of you as the owner's project manager, again, Westwood being the owner, you work for us on our behalf, and we just want you all to know that this project is our top priority. I know you're aware of the history. You're aware of the dire need that we have, and so we very much appreciate your partnering with us.
Absolutely. So before we go into local funding discussion, any other questions?
I think we're good. Thank you.
Okay, so PMA has been discussing internally just the past results and what's upcoming for the town and for the state as well. So as we move through this design process, hiring a designer, moving through the feasibility study, moving through schematic design, and ultimately that project funding authorization, there's two requirements in order for funding to move forward for a project like this. That is town meeting and a ballot vote. Come November, we have the state election midterms on November 3rd. What PMA has seen in the past on projects is that the voter turnout is significantly increased on presidential ballots and on midterm elections. And the same is true in the town of Westwood. You can see 2018, 73% turnout, 2022, 64% turnout for those two state elections. The ballots were 18 and 34%. While those are larger numbers, they're nowhere near 73 and 64. So the approval of the ballot question would be required for the select board. The certified copy would need to go on or before August 5th to the state for approval if it was going to be included, if that discussion or decision was going to be included for that November board. Special town meeting should occur. It doesn't have to. It could always occur after for the specific and exact not to exceed dollar amount for a project that would be authorized to be spent for a project. Now still slow.
You stuck again?
Yeah, it's the mouse, I think. I'm not sure.
You got it? Let me just share it.
That's okay.
It's me.
So while this is brought back up, just for the board and the public's edification, what PMA is showing here and what we are socializing with the board now, you don't need to make any votes or make any decisions tonight, but there are a couple of ways that we as a community can approach the funding, funding timelines for this. One is you go through each sequential milestone of the feasibility and schematic process, and you get to a kind of certain point where you're getting close on the budget numbers, and you call for special town meetings and special town elections. I think it's fair to call that a kind of traditional approach.
Yeah.
In this case, just by happenstance and opportunity, there is an election in November that will certainly have a higher turnout of our residents, and so when the PMA team flagged that, we had said, float this to the FS1 steering committee and bring this discussion to the select board, because if you were to go this route, we would want you to have plenty of time to consider it. Both of them, it doesn't change that you still need 2 votes for a project that involves a debt exclusion to go to a ballot and to a town meeting. It's just a question, and PMA is going to get into the kind of pros and cons, and we really would like to hear feedback from the select board as we start to develop options, not just, feasibility and schematic is not just about options for buildings, it's also about options for finance packages, it's also for just logistical and electoral options for the board, so.
Absolutely. So PMA was batting that idea around and trying to come up with a pros and cons list for everyone to begin discussions on. And with that said, it's the increased turnout as a pro. There are election cost savings, whether those are significant, I mean, they are real. You become efficient through your design and decision timeline. You are able to eliminate some construction cost escalation. Right now in the market, we are seeing, and professional construction cost estimators seeing anywhere from 4 to 8%. Nationally, Massachusetts is somewhere between 8 to 10%. For reference, on a $40 million job at 10%, you're looking at $4 million a year. So it is significant. It is one less visit to the polls for the town, for everyone that lives in the town. And a cost for a special election would be about $10,000. The cons are there is potential for voter confusion, authorization to borrow versus authorization to spend, the design and estimate variables. Now, that being said, the language that goes to the ballot only includes a recommendation or an authorization to borrow, doesn't include the amount. But there are potential for project opponents to push issues with, a decision being made to push it to the voters before a final design is complete or a schematic design is complete to provide funding for. And then lastly, the select board would need to vote on that ballot question prior to the development of the preferred solution. So this is what PMA highlighted. This is what PMA discussed with the steering committee. We wanted to bring it to your attention for the beginnings of these discussions as we move towards that August date. Whether the project is funded or whether the decision to move the project to a vote is on the state election ballot or not. We hope to be able to do it in the fall. If it's later than the ballot and we can't get there, we can shift that. Trying to think of any other potential discussion points. I'm sure this group will have some.
If I could just.
Yeah, absolutely.
The key dates here are that if a municipality wants a local debt exclusion question to go on what is a state ballot, which is the midterm, as people kind of colloquially refer to it, you are required to submit that ballot language to the Secretary of the Commonwealth's office, I believe, the first Wednesday.
August 5th.
August 5th.
First Wednesday in August.
First Wednesday in August, which is quite a bit earlier than the typical 35 days that you as a select board are required to vote ballot language. The way that Prop 2.5 is designed for a debt exclusion is that language, usually it's pretty prescriptive, shall the town of Westwood be allowed to exempt from Prop 2.5 the bonds associated with Fire Station 1. You don't put a budget on the ballot. That budget is a vote of town meeting, which would still have to happen. But as even just the length of this conversation shows, this would require a kind of procedural, if it's what the board wants to do or to consider, the board would be you would be voting a ballot functionally in late July. And there would be a premium, in my view, placed on explaining on the front end why and what that means, because it's not as if a project gets frozen in amber from when you take that vote. You're basically securing your spot on a ballot, and then you have to continue moving with purpose through July, August, September, October to get to that date, so that voters are not walking into the polls on November 3rd without a site, a project, and a budget that's known. But, so I just wanted to clarify.
Yeah, no,
Piece.
I appreciate it.
So we're happy to hear from the board
Yes.
what your thoughts are.
I will start off, I think your point is really well taken, that if we could get a 73% voter turnout, we're really ensuring we have much more engagement, that we're really hopefully achieving a true consensus around the ballot initiative. And so that's very attractive to me. What I'm curious about, though, and I don't have the numbers in front of me, but perhaps we could talk about this next time, is backing in our timeline as far as the FinCom process leading up to
A special town meeting.
a special town meeting. Were we to do one before, because ideally we would like to do, as you said, a special town meeting before the election. And we've got a timeline that we have here in terms of our local process with the warrant article going before town meeting, and there's a whole timeline associated with getting the book out and their process that takes us back weeks. So I think we need to really plot that out. And maybe we can even discuss that at our next meeting.
Absolutely.
It would be nice to have, we can work with the
Yeah,
town
like-
clerk and
Absolutely.
plot that out in
Yeah.
terms of
Yeah,
what that would
seeing
look
it
like.
visually is much more, it makes it easier to talk about.
Agreed. Joe and Aaron, any thoughts or questions?
I guess I just have a question. Does the special town meeting have to be before November 3rd? Because it seems to me, so we have to put this ballot language together before we really have all the data that we need, right? And there's nothing we can really do about that.
Yep, as Connor mentioned, it would just be securing your spot for that. Yep.
Yeah, but so it doesn't have a number on it,
Right.
it's just it's the concept. Will people vote to approve generally that? Okay, so that would be November 3rd. But if we put, what's that?
No requirement for the town meeting to be before, it's just standard practice, or I guess I don't even
know
wanna
if you
call
could
it
say
standard practice.
I think-
I've seen it happen
I
both
think
ways.
many communities, I think that is Westwood's practice in my prior community, especially on a building project, it's nice because you have that basically mega public hearing, right, of town meeting where you have hundreds of people in a detailed presentation focused on a project ahead of people going to the polls. But I would defer to Pat as far as.
Does not, the batting order is not preordained. You don't have to have town meeting first.
But you need both of those things, but the sequence of events is not.
That is correct. Yep.
Okay, so you could have a vote on the 3rd that's very vague, that basically doesn't have a number on it, but then,
But it never would, no matter which order.
no matter when, okay,
matter which
so
order.
that's not, right, so then, if you have, but then you could postpone the special town meeting till later, when you do have all of those details, so that when, and you need both of those, so people could vote yes generally with a concept on the 3rd, but still reserve the right to later at a special town meeting say, well, I don't actually like the numbers now or something.
Whether or not it goes.
do, you
Whether
know.
or not the batting order, whichever way it happens,
That'll
We need to be able to have the information in advance of town meeting so that nothing is unclear.
Right,
So
right.
that would be the expectation.
But I think you're answering I think there's a very tight process question being asked. And I
Yep.
think from a process standpoint, Pat, again, I'd look to you to confirm, the answer is yes, you could have a ballot and then a town meeting.
Yes.
Whether or not a ballot in front of town meeting has more chances or not is a policy question for the board,
Yeah, you'd be taking a risk.
That's correct,
correct? But
yeah.
procedurally, yes.
So I think one of the things that you're saying here is, the thing that's attractive about the November 3rd vote is turnout.
Correct.
More people will get to participate in the process.
Yes.
And that's what's driving it. It's not, there's anything other than that magical about the November 3rd date.
Getting people to the polls.
Right. And then the special town meeting, the cost of the special town meeting is the same whether it's before.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
that's
You have
kind
to
of-
do that.
That's kind of baked in unless you build the project schedule around having this be an article at a standard town meeting, which I reserve the right to change my mind, but I typically would not recommend. I think projects of the scale deserve their own night.
And we've historically done that with big projects.
Yes.
When going to show my age here again. When we did the high school,
Sure.
we had a special town meeting in, I want to say, February.
Sure.
And the gym was packed.
Yep.
So it's, we historically do that.
Sure.
I just want to be clear, though, regardless of when we would do a special election, or whether it be tacked on to the election, voters would have a sense of what the proposed number is.
Yeah, I mean, yes, again, not to be so bureaucratic about it, I mean, technically, I mean, you could just have the general question. I wouldn't recommend that.
Yeah.
We would obviously, by doing this really puts, an achievable, if you look at the presentation that was made, there's probably 5 months of work. It's June 1st. So it just means we need to be really productive. Because yes, we would, even if we sequentially had a town meeting after the ballot, you wouldn't want voters to not have access to, they're going to want to know, what does the project cost, where is it going, what's the tax impact, how is this different than last time, I think, right? And so, yes, we would, whether we legally must have those before November 3rd, I don't know the answer to, but I think it kind of doesn't matter. I think practically, of course, we would want voters to be well-informed.
And that's the point I just want to get across
Absolutely.
for people watching, that, what we're talking about is trying to potentially take advantage of the high turnout we expect on November 3rd, which would mean we need to get in line early to do that with the state to get on the ballot. But what we want is, if and when we do go out for a special election, that the voters have all of the information about the project that we're talking about. I just want to be really clear about that, so there's no confusion. So we just have to keep reiterating that.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I think one of the things you're doing tonight is you're looking for public input
Yes.
on this process. Does the town want us to use the midterm election as a place to let voters make a decision about whether or not they want to fund this moving forward? That's basically what you're looking for feedback from tonight. If I'm mistaken, tell me.
Yeah, I mean, my administration and the OPM are not asking the board to make a decision tonight.
Right.
And we wanted to bring this to you now, what might feel premature since town meeting was, I think, 4 weeks ago. It all blends, but this
That's
is
all?
this is a consequential choice, and I don't want you to have to make it under pressure. So you have time.
Thank you. And yeah, I would love to hear what the residents' kind of take on this is. So ask people who are here or watching to weigh in on their thoughts on it. Because I don't want it, the worst thing to me would be, I don't want anything to appear to be forced on or rushed on the residents without everybody having plenty of time to vet and understand. And I know that's not the intent, but I want to make sure it doesn't even look that way.
Right.
Understood.
Yeah.
We agree.
Yeah.
Once we you conclude your presentation, we will certainly ask for feedback from folks who are here and attending remotely.
Sorry, Joe, I think the lineup of the blinding sun is hiding you.
I'm trying.
I think Joe had a
You've been
question.
doing a great job, Erin. I'm literally
We all need to
blinded by
lean
the
in.
light.
That's great.
So let me just dovetail onto Mary Ann's suggestion. So one thing we should probably be able to decide tonight, are we in favor of having some sort of town meeting prior to the ballot? Let me ask that. Or are we going to do the town meeting after the ballot?
Joe, I think my preference is to do a town meeting before.
Okay.
But I do really want to wait until we get all the information at our next meeting in terms of that timeline and see how that links up.
No,
particularly-
I'm with you. I'm going, I said I was going to dovetail onto you.
Yeah.
So what I'm suggesting is, I'm looking at 10/19 and 10/26. So if we spin those dates backwards
Right.
to follow up on what Mary Ann said as far as the FinCom's responsibilities.
Right.
What I'm trying to say is,
I got you.
that's a target date we probably ought to play with, but then give Molly and Connor the opportunity, okay, to sit down with the FinCom folks and with Dottie and say, okay, if we shot for one of these two dates, how are we looking?
Off the top of my head, and don't hold me to these numbers, but the book has to be in households between 7 and 14 days before,
Another good
Yes.
point.
right?
Yep.
But it's not, let me remind you, in the
It's-
charter, it's not a problem.
It's the tradition that it's 7 to 14 days, so
And
backing that out 2 weeks to have it printed and mailed to each household, backing out a couple of days before that to finish it,
You're looking
backing out a couple of
mid-September.
days for the FinCom public hearing is probably
Hey.
going to be in late September.
Hang on. Our charter just changed. We no longer have to mail the books out. We can send them out electronically. We should print some books, but we changed that in the charter.
So you'd save a couple weeks there.
So that can save you some time.
But we will, to circle back to your point, Joe, sit down with the town clerk and with Pat, check in with Bill Bruce on FinCom as well, and come back from a meeting on the 22nd of what would a schedule look like if we targeted October 26th? What are the drop dead dates that we would need to meet? And then that really turns into a question for PMA
And the designer.
and the designer. Congratulations, you're hired. Do this.
By now.
By now.
And so that will be part of that discussion as well, but yes, we'll build that schedule.
So that can also be something that you press on making a decision on who the designer is.
Is certainly.
You all just selected an interview question.
Yeah, I was going to say that.
Was already drafted. Agreed.
Of course.
Agreed.
I don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves, but I just want to put this out there, which is, if we, assuming we do have a special town meeting in the late fall, what we need to do a much better job of this time around is making really clear to residents that this is a two-step process in terms of town meeting and the ballot. And there was confusion on that last year. We can do a much better job this time around in making that really clear to folks that you need to have both decisions on it. So I just wanted to put an asterisk on that now.
Yep. I completely agree.
And thank you for bringing that opportunity to us.
Yeah, no,
So we appreciate that.
trying to think outside the box for
Yeah,
anything
no, we-
that can make the town of Westwood's life easier. If there's no more questions right now on that specific, I'll jump into a quick outreach, community outreach update. So FS1 Steering Committee and specifically their outreach community input group went through a survey. The results of the survey are shown here. What we're looking at as a project team, specifically the PMA team and our marketing coordinator, is as soon as we have the designer engaged and on board, is developing a community outreach strategy particular to the project for updates that are ongoing and meaningful updates. Not, we put a design together last week, but something that the community can dive into and provide some type of, or at least just be able to have the opportunity to look at work product that'll be available to them. I know that in the background right now, a dedicated project website is being developed. I know that the PMA team will also be in the background, working on, social media. When those go live, are TBD, but, you know, we typically don't do anything until we have a designer on board. It's just very early to just talk about ourselves. We don't like to talk about ourselves. We want to talk about the project. It would just be an update of what we have. But with that being said, and as just mentioned, community outreach is going to be the most important thing as we move towards whatever date is selected for any type of vote, specifically letting people know what has been done, why it's being done, what decisions or what influenced those decisions, and specifically when those two votes need to happen. I apologize, we don't have a great community outreach presentation to give you right now, but they will be forthcoming in the next few months as we have that designer onboarded.
And just for the board and the public's benefit, as Mary Ann referenced, the board members have either in person or watched these presentations, but for the folks who might be watching, one of the feet you put forward as a firm in your interview is that you do not subcontract communications out. You have dedicated communications staff that work for PMA and get assigned to projects. Is that correct?
That is correct, yes.
Right, because I think, again, this is just my theory of building projects, but these are, at the end of the day, trust exercises, in my opinion, and trust is built on communication. So ensuring that, you know, there's not going to be some way we cobble a project together where you're going to get 99-to-1 vote outcomes, but we can make sure that we're leading with our best foot forward at all times, trying to make sure that the information that people want is available, that they understand, to Walter's point, what decisions are being made by who, when, where, and why. We're going to try to earn as much trust and buy-in as we can throughout the process, earn as much belief in the project as we can. But even for those folks who maybe say, well, you know what, I don't love this idea, my goal and my hope is that by, you know, the holidays this fall, that even if someone's telling me, hey, I'm on my way to vote no, that they feel like we gave them the information to make a good faith decision about that.
Agreed.
So that is everything that the PMA team has, so we'll turn it back over to this group for any further Q&A, or that'll be the end of our presentation.
Thank you so much for that presentation. Let me open it up to my colleagues to see if they have any further questions or comments they'd like to make. Joe?
The only thing I'm looking at, Connor, is, Molly, you just did a quick thumbnail off the top of your head thing as far as timeline, which was good. But that leads me to 8/26 as far as us having things nailed down. I backed up 8 weeks from 10/26, which sounds close to what you were saying. We got a pretty tight timeline.
Yes.
If you want to have town meeting before the vote.
Right. I believe there's consensus on that. Or am I mistaken?
I'm not sold that it has to be done that way, but I can be talked into it. But to me, I think with the right amount of communication, I mean, the reality is you need the two votes. So I think there's rather than try to jam everything in by August 26th in order to follow the right steps with FinCom, I really want to make sure there's a robust public discussion process and plenty of time for that. And I know we all do. And I'm not sold that it has to be. I guess I feel like if people really understand that we need both votes, and the first vote is just kind of conceptual and general, and then the second vote, they will have another bite at the apple, where when they will have a very fulsome amount of information and discussion, then they can vote no. So you could vote yes at the November 3rd, and then December 5th or whenever, when we have a following, when we really had time to flesh out all the details and everybody has time to do everything the right way and collect feedback, incorporate feedback, respond to feedback, then as long as I feel like if people understand that you can vote yes on November 3rd and still have a no if you want to, I don't know, that seems like a.
And town meeting vote is, it's a higher threshold, it's 2/3 versus a ballot is 50%. 50.
Yeah, so anyway, I guess I just see that as might be, as a possible solution if we can communicate that well.
Let me just add one element. We're New Englanders. People like to have a robust discussion. And town meeting provides that.
Right, but I'm saying, I'm not sure we can provide everything that they need before November 3rd.
Oh, I don't disagree with you.
So we could still have that. So if the steps don't matter, if you need A and you need B, and it doesn't matter if it goes A, B, or B, A, then as long as I think, like, as long as the voters understand that, I think that might be, in order to make sure that there's no question that people have had time to review what we've given them, they've had time to have their questions answered. If they have feedback, that we actually respond to it, and if we have to make changes, that we have time to do that. So I mean,
I think for the discussion you're having, which is why it's so important that we all come back next time with a schedule that says that we're targeting this. These are the real kind of, these are line in the sand dates that we need to be thinking about.
In order to meet a 10/26 special town meeting date, these are the dates that would need to be hit.
Right.
And the project team needs to be able to confirm that those can be hit.
Right.
I think that's really going to be the key factor in the decision, as long as the project team can march towards those dates and be efficient in the decision-making. But I think you're, right, that timeline is going to be key to your decision-making process, being able to see it visually.
and I appreciate, I don't mean to, I'm the last person who wants to slow this down. I appreciate how urgent it is to get the fire, it is a top priority. I know, and I want it to be done as soon as possible, but the last thing I want to do is make it appear or actually shortcut any part of the public participation process. So if that means we have to do it kind of in reverse, if that could work, then
Yeah,
I
or,
think
I
that might
mean,
be worth doing it
Or
in
you
a way
could just
to.
do the traditional route as well, right? Of you just let the process drive your election calendar and you don't target November 3rd.
Yes,
November 3rd
exactly,
is not.
exactly.
You don't have to do it.
Right.
We just wanted to start the discussion as challenging of one that it will be for the three of you now.
Yeah.
So that we can get this feedback and give you more procedural and logistical information to keep the discussion going and hopefully to hear from our residents on, is this something they have any interest in?
Yeah.
I think that what we're all saying is, what's most important here is building consensus around this and making sure that we have the time to do that properly and not rushing it. So I think we're just going to have to look at how does this shake out in terms of process.
What does it look like on a schedule?
Yeah.
Right, and get some more information also from our designer, once they get on board. What's
Yeah.
realistic? When are we going to be getting work product from them? I mean, there are so many questions we don't have answers to. So
Right.
I think this is a good discussion conceptually, but I think we're all agreed that building that consensus is the most important element. We want the community, as Connor said, to be comfortable, to have all the information to make an informed decision, and not to rush any part of that.
That's more for Molly. Molly, when you work on that, can you, in the front end of it, take a look at which committees need to advertise or post for the meetings? You and I would like to put the notice in the paper yesterday, but sometimes the papers have their constraints.
Right.
And that's something we need to think about.
Yes, so we could do, when we do a schedule, we could map it out as both a chronological schedule and a process schedule.
Yeah, I know you will, but I'm just thinking about, okay, where are the roadblocks here that we can't control?
Sure.
And that's
Yes.
one of them.
Yeah, and I think, one of the things here too is this is ambitious, but also we, even by your next meeting on the 22nd, will have shortlisted and done final interviews and have a recommended designer. If the fees negotiated by the following Monday, great, but if not, we're gonna make sure we get the right fee, but FS1 steering will meet again. I'm sure this will be a discussion there, again, we've had some time to think about it. So you'll have an additional FS1 meeting, numerous design meetings, and hopefully a designer that's selected if all paperwork not executed. We'll bring back this chronology for the board as well. And if the board looks at it, says this is just, we don't think this is the right call, then that's okay.
Just an opportunity.
Right.
Can we get that chronology timeline sooner than later?
Yeah, I mean, there's no need for us to wait until your meeting on the 22nd.
Please.
I think we can target getting it to FS1 on their meeting on June 15th and sharing it with, just emailing it to the board
Yeah.
as well at the same time.
Let me ask if any of our folks attending have any questions or comments? Yes, Ms. Cardy, I think you need to.
Sorry, I think we need to move you,
Yeah, no, we can,
well, I think for
You need the mic.
WMC,
Need the
for
microphone.
public record.
Walter,
Thank you.
Seamus, and Matt, thank you very much.
thank you. We'll hang around.
Please, thank you. Please state your name and address.
Mary Ann Cardy, 143 Willard Circle. Excellent presentation. So my question is to you. Have you worked on a project since you brought up the whole voting thing, that this was part of it? It's kind of a novel idea.
You'll have to come back.
You might have to come up.
Yeah.
Sorry, Walter, you should
Yeah.
stay.
So
You
I
want
don't
me to
have,
stay? I can stay, yeah.
I don't have to stay.
The question was if we've worked on a project where the ballot question was on the midterms. The answer is yes, on numerous projects, multiple school projects.
Okay.
Where the ballot question was, I'm sorry.
On either a presidential ballot or on a midterm election ballot. So yes, the answer is yes.
Okay, then I'll follow up with how many had the town meeting afterwards and how many town meeting before?
I will double check that for you and get back to you. I am not positive because I believe I know they were multiple over 5 years ago. But we have absolutely do it. We actually, believe it or not, we actually target those for voter turnout because we want the public to be engaged. So there is a reason for it, and we find that is a better representation of the people voting in the town, and we like to see that.
Good to
Joe,
hear.
we'll check as well. PMA can check their portfolio, but we can pull the Department of Revenue, Prop 2.5. They have a spreadsheet. They keep all, I know they keep all overrides. I don't know if they keep just, if the DOR keeps a history of all overrides. I'm not sure if they have debt exclusions, but if they do, we'll go in and pull that. And I could see,
We'll
folks
check our
in the
recent
area of those that passed, how many had a town meeting after, if any.
You mean in the local services?
Yeah, the DLS.
Yep. Okay.
Do we have any questions or comments online? Tish?
We do not.
We do not. Okay, well, thank you again.
Hold
all
on,
of you.
I spoke too soon.
Oh, sorry, one question.
Manford Man,
Kathy Walls just raised.
blinded by the light.
Okay,
Yeah.
can let Kathy in, please.
Or I think we unmute, right?
Or-
But we don't put them on the panel.
Hi, Kathy. Oh.
Let her get away. You haven't got any negatives, so.
No, it's a good thing.
We'll definitely reshare that information tomorrow
Yeah,
morning.
and reshare, thank you, and just be, Molly is alluding to reshare, because we did share the notice. We didn't want to announce tonight, the meeting is tomorrow for the first time, so that is out there, and we will share it again.
Thank you very much, Kathy. Thank you, everybody.
Jill wanted to ask Ms. Wallace, oh, she left, how the volume was tonight, how the sound was.
Oh,
Oh, she's back.
Does it sound better?
So
right.
I want to use that as an opportunity to thank Tish, WMC, Lizzie,
Stephanie.
Stephanie J, and IT, because I don't know if Kathy's the first person to join hybrid for comment, but the sound on our end is great.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's, I forgot in my TA notes to say, give us some grace and please blame me and yell at me, not the staff, if it doesn't go well. But I do want to give a lot of credit, because hybrid meetings are one of those things that, like, everyone, we all love the idea, but logistically and technically, they're actually almost never as smooth as you want them to be. So I don't want to jinx it, because then everything in the room will light on fire. But really appreciate preparing for select board meetings, a lot of work already. So for this layer to be added for Tish, for all the other staff, is a lot. So I want to say thank you to them.
Round of applause for them. Strong work.
Okay, any other questions or comments, Tish, online? I think we will close out this agenda item. Once again, Walter, Seamus, thank you very much. We look forward to seeing more of you as we move forward on this.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much. We are going to move forward. We have quite a few things left on our agenda. Let's move into new business, starting with the town council recruitment process.
Sure, thank you, Mary Ann. I guess I'll defer to the board. I have a kind of detailed process memo included in your packet. If you'd like, I could try to summarize it on the fly. Okay,
Please.
so as we are aware, town council Pat Ahern has announced his pending retirement in August. And while we have a recognition for Pat that has to come later this summer, we do also need to get the process moving for securing his successor. And the select board appoints only a handful of positions, staff positions, so to speak. You appoint a tremendous amount of board and committee volunteers. And town council is one of them. Town council is your chief legal representative, advisor, and is one of the most critical decisions that a select board can make, who or which firm you appoint to serve as legal counsel. Procurement of legal services is exempt from state procurement law when it comes to bidding requirements. However, even with that exemption, it's in my view, and worked on this as well with procurement and with town council Ahern, in the board and the public's benefit to still follow a structured and competitive process. So that ensures transparency, high quality representation for the board, and best value for the community. What we are recommending, there's a few action items for the board. Not all of them need to be taken tonight. If you do not wish to do so, I will ask for your authorization at the end of my presentation and any question and discussion with the board to publish the request for proposals for legal services to get that process moving. But I'll just quickly touch through the kind of main steps of a town council procurement process, as starting with a baseline of what we've already started, which is through HR, through Molly, begun surveying our department heads to get feedback from them on what are the types, complexities, frequencies of municipal law that they most routinely feel the need to pick up the phone or solicit feedback from town council on. What are those areas that are most important to them, so that we can make sure that as we move farther down into this process in July and August and bring on a firm, that we don't have any blind spots as to areas that are really important. Certain departments, elections, land use, conservation, public works, work with legal counsel very, very regularly, but we didn't want to just kind of take that as assumed. And so we are getting that feedback from all of our administrative leaders to make sure that we don't have blind spots there. We have developed a scope and RFP that's included for the board's consideration in your packet tonight, that has a scope of service defining the skills and qualifications that we would want to see from a firm or an individual attorney experienced in municipal law, what the evaluation criteria that those respondents would be ranked on across a very, very broad array. I'll touch on a few of them because it really speaks to kind of extraordinary scope and complexity, both of which are growing, that municipalities have to be able to straddle, ranging from intergovernmental relations with regional, state, and federal government bodies on environmental regulation, on land use, elections. The stakes for municipal legal counsel are very, very high, and so we are going to be asking extremely detailed questions and responses of not just tell us, your firm can do these things, but identify the specific principles within your firm and how much experience they individually have in each of these areas, who would be lead counsel, things of that nature. We would also, of course, ask for price proposals. This document, recognizing Westwood's own practice, as well as the kind of different flavors of municipal representation in Massachusetts, doesn't force the respondents to have to be a multi-attorney firm. It can be an individual working with others of counsel. What matters fundamentally is their ability to meet the needs of the town and the board. So assuming the board is comfortable with the RFP that has been included, that's based off of other community legal counsel RFPs. It was also looked at what we did last time here in Westwood. It has also gone through procurement and legal counsel. So from a as to form perspective, you were secure there. If that's issued, the next phase for the board to be thinking about is a preliminary screening committee. So to manage the volume of responses and ensure a deep technical review of proposals, I would recommend that the select board consider appointing a town council screening committee. This is something that you do for other positions. You have done most recently for the town administrator process, where obviously a town administrator is an appointee of yours. One of the benefits of this is as a public body doing the final interviews, which would be public, if that's the only interview stage, I think frankly that could be a hindrance on the response, because firms that perhaps maybe think they have an alternative or maybe a unique approach and don't stand out right away may feel they won't even get an interview if all of them have to be public. So much like a town administrator screening committee, if you appoint one, they would review all the written responses, conduct initial vetting interviews, do professional reference checks, and then do a short list of finalists who would come before the select board at a public meeting where you would interview finalists and make an appointment. Town council screening committees can do those interviews in executive session to protect the confidentiality of those applicants, just as is typical for most employment screening committees, including town administration. The next phase of that would be a presentation of finalists to the select board, a short list, typically 2 to 3 firms. You would then do a public interview. Under the meeting law, the select board would do those openly. Format, you typically have a set, for the sake of equity, a set amount of time and similar questions that you would ask of all firms. And then you, of course, have the ability to have any follow-ups that you want. There's a deliberation and an appointment at that point, which could include authorizing negotiation of a contract and executing a written contract with counsel. So I know that's a lot. All of that is in the process memo that you have. And again, for me, what I think is really important tonight is, assuming there's no major concerns about the technical document, I would like for us to be able to issue the RFP after tonight's meeting, so that that advertising period, which is about 3 weeks, can get started. Because even if we do that, you're still looking at July into August before we're getting into interviews. If the board wants to discuss screening committee appointment or composition tonight, you may do that, but just based on the turnaround time for responses, you can also do that. You can make that final call on the 22nd. So happy to answer any questions on this process.
What is your recommendation for the screening committee?
So I believe we included, and correct me, Tish and Molly if I'm wrong, a draft in here. So one of the things that's important, in my view, with folks who are screening for municipal legal counsel is, and I'm aware that 2/3 of my bosses are attorneys, so please take mercy on me. But being an attorney in one area is not automatically the same thing as being an attorney in another, right? It's the same thing as a civil engineer is not necessarily the same thing as a structural engineer. That said, having individuals on the screening committee who have worked with municipal legal counsel is ideal, because of the kind of very specific niche areas that municipal law can cover. So what we had recommended included, I believe, some of the department heads that most frequently use these services. I would say either myself or the deputy TA in my place, director of community and economic development, so that would be Nora, who's also a resident, and her department serves a variety of land use boards. Those are very critical regulatory boards: zoning board of appeals, planning board, conservation commission. Town clerk, obviously elections law is one of those areas where the margin of error allowable is 0 ever. So a lot of interplay with legal counsel and potentially public works as well. Public works is speaking with Councilor Hearn. Those are departments that, with right-of-way, with infrastructure projects, easements, those are things that are very important. So again, the inclusion of additional folks, it's ultimately up to the select board. I would say I feel that it's important to consider individuals who have significant governmental legal experience, whether that's with municipal council, state, federal, et cetera. And the RFP in the packet goes into, if you look at the responses, some of those areas that I said I would touch on but didn't. General municipal law, municipal finance, bylaws and regulations, open meeting law, public records, executive session, conflict of interest, zoning, real estate, town meeting, special legislation, public bidding law, procurement, 40B and 48, housing, PFAS, wetland regs, liquor licensing, you name it. So, I think it's a very important role and it guides policy of a town, but you want some real technical expertise, in my opinion.
Let me manage the discussion. Let's just focus on the RFP to start. Any questions, comments, concerns on the RFP?
I just had one question. It's just on section 2 of the RFP, it says that the town clerk is elected, and is that still true? Is that
It is true.
Oh, okay.
But I think there's a tenure distinction, is that correct?
Yes, yes, she's tenured. So there's a provision in state law where a town clerk, if is elected, I don't remember how many times, she can try and she or he can become tenured. Dottie did that.
Got it.
I don't remember when, I apologize for that, but she's tenured and will remain tenured until she reaches, I think it's age 70, but don't quote me on that.
Okay, that was my one question.
So,
And there was a typo of mine for the due date on May 5th that Aaron flagged for me, which I appreciate, so we would correct that. The due date would be June 25th.
okay. So it seems, and we'll have to take a vote, but it seems we've got consensus around the RFP. Clearly, there is some urgency about getting that out as soon as we can. As to the screening committee, I think that is a great idea. I know they had one for this position when Pat was hired.
Yep.
A number of years ago. Certainly, this is the model we're following with respect to police and what we did with town administrator. I do think Connor's suggestion that the Director of Community and Economic Development and Town Clerk be on it. I understand those positions were on it last time, given.
I know the town clerk was, I'm not positive about economic development.
She was.
She was, okay.
Yeah.
And forgive me, I also recommended a select board rep. I didn't intentionally omit
Okay.
that in my verbal comments. That's in my readout.
I'm going through your memo
Okay.
here.
You're tactfully catching my mistake.
I agree that town administrator or deputy would be an important person. I agree that a select board member would be important. I would like to serve in that capacity if that makes sense to the rest of the board. So I just want to throw that out. The question is whether we want to involve anybody else on the screen.
You didn't mention Todd, the DPW director.
Well, I think we should talk about it. Certainly, if.
You highlighted it in your presentation, but I
Yes.
didn't see it in the memo.
Yes, so it's, again,
And I agree with
I was
that.
out last week. So it was,
No, but I think it's a good suggestion.
yes,
Todd loves
DPW.
being put on committees.
That's exactly what I said.
And Todd has a way of keeping it real, so I think that would be a good addition.
In all seriousness,
I'm afraid of payback now.
no, I'm not going there, Joe.
Okay.
I do a lot of work with Todd around certain issues.
Sure, yeah.
So having his input, I think, would be good for the process.
I'd actually like to think about it, so I like to, tonight, if it doesn't slow down the process overall, I'd like to postpone and kind of think about who we want on that committee until the 22nd, and then, but authorize the RFP
Okay.
tonight if we can.
Yeah,
Just to think about it, just
won't-
because this, I'm just getting up to speed this afternoon on this, and I just want to think about it.
Sure, so it won't slow down the process necessarily. If you have a meeting on the 22nd, which is before the next
And then we can decide.
That's fine.
before the
Kind of
proposals
give
are
it
due.
some thought,
Yeah, I think that's
if that's okay with you guys.
perfectly fine. I
guys
mean,
do
it's going
rock,
to take
paper,
3
scissors?
weeks. So why don't, I will entertain a motion as to the RFP.
Sure, I'd like to make a motion for the select board to authorize the town administrator to issue a request for proposals for legal counsel services.
I'll second the motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
That is a unanimous vote in favor.
Great, thank you. We will get to work.
Further discuss that at our next meeting. Thank you very much. We will move on to our next agenda item relative to an informational insert for tax bills relative to the FS1 project pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 60, Section 3AD.
Sure, thanks, Marianne. So for the board's benefit, as I think you may be aware, because you often have aid to the elderly information that goes in your tax bills, under state law, provided that an informational mailer from the town is not political in nature, is informational, and it does not increase the weight of the postage so much to actually drive up the cost of the mailing, you can include useful public information in tax bills. There is a tax bill coming up soon. We would need to get an insert to the collector's office by June 17th. I will acknowledge this is an idea that I did not fully accurately transcribe from Select Board Member Sibley in the discussion with the FS1 committee May 18th, I think. Sounds like that was when we had a meeting about just ways to raise awareness that the project was authorized to kind of, I guess it's fair to say functionally, to formally restart at the May 4 town meeting, that there is information available, that there will be opportunities for folks to get engaged, and that we have, various online communication platforms like The Wire that if people are not subscribed to, they ought to, because those are really great ways to ensure that as this project advances, that they don't miss any opportunity to participate, particularly online because we're sensitive, it's summer, not everyone's around, but we will ensure that there's as many opportunities as possible. So I think, not to put you on the spot, Aaron, but you had talked about this briefly as far as maybe some additional items in the future, using this for information for the public, which could be a great idea. For now, just with the 17th fast approaching, what I had asked of Marianne to put on the agenda was whether or not the board would be interested in authorizing us to just do an informational flyer related to FS1. Again, it's not a go vote yes, you're not allowed to do that, Boy Scout about that stuff, but just, hey, this is happening. Sometimes for all of us, or I'll speak for myself, we're kind of in the bubble, right, of the universe revolves around town hall and town meeting, and it actually doesn't for a lot of folks. And so just kind of having that get out there in I don't want to say old school, but a more traditional way might be worth doing. And given the requirement is it can't increase the cost outside of staff time, it doesn't cost you anything.
Good idea?
What are we thinking about saying on the flyer?
It's a great question. Happy to, work in progress, but it would be, I'm thinking something along the lines of informational update on FS1 on May 4th. Your neighbors voted to approve feasibility and schematic, which means these 3 bullets. Here's where all the information about that can be found online. Here's how you can contact the steering committee or town administration select board if you have questions. Here's where you could sign up to make sure that you don't miss anything about this project.
Maybe deadlines, like things coming up. Dates to
I'm fine with it, Marianne.
Great, well, if there's no further discussion, I'll entertain a motion.
Sure, I move for the select board to authorize the inclusion of information regarding the Fire Station 1 project in the August 2026 tax bill as allowed per Mass General Law, Chapter 60, Section 3A, subsection D, to keep residents informed of information regarding the project.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
It's a unanimous vote in favor. I do just want to mention, I think it's a great way of getting information to people, but we have to be mindful that we're not reaching all of our residents in Westwood through the tax bill, as we have many residents who do not pay property taxes here, so we need to be mindful of that. Okay, moving on to our next agenda item, the United Food and Commercial Workers Union Local 1445 Integrated Contract.
That's me.
Molly, I'll turn that to you.
So back in January, this board voted to ratify the MOA for FY '27 to '29 for the town's DPW union. What's before you tonight is a housekeeping item which integrates the language from that memorandum of agreement into one consolidated, clean document for reference and for administration.
Any questions, comments?
None.
Hearing none, I will entertain a motion.
I move for the select board to approve and sign the collective bargaining agreement between the town and United Food and Commercial Workers Union Local 1445 for fiscal year '27 through fiscal year '29, and authorize the electronic signatures of the select board to be affixed to the agreement.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
It is a unanimous vote in favor. Thank you very much, Molly. Our next agenda item is Select Board Liaison appointments for residents' benefit. As you may know, the Select Board members serve as liaison to various other boards in town. We have a list of them here, some of which are currently open. We're looking at you, Erin. So we have a list here. I will note there is not a vacancy on the school building committee because there is no school building committee right now. That's a holdover from when we did have one. What is currently open besides that is the Westwood Environmental Action Committee, or WEAC. I suppose one way to think about this, Joe, is if there are any that you would like to cycle off of or change.
Oh, I'm pretty happy.
You're pretty happy? Okay.
Well, I could trade. No.
For me, I'm pretty happy as well. I'm serving on long range financial planning, Canton Street Project Working Group, the Commission on Disability. I'm also on the Lean Process Board, which has not met, to my knowledge, in the 3 years that I've served as the liaison.
Sorry, I'm gonna claim
yeah,
new
I've
guy
never
on
been
this.
asked
This
to
is
go
my
to a
first-
meeting.
First board
That's
meeting.
actually a good thing. That means we're not taking any tax title.
Yeah.
If needed, right?
Right.
That's pretty light lift. And I do serve on the Norfolk County Advisory Board. That would be one that I would be happy to share.
Yeah, sure.
With
I'm happy
someone
to.
else.
Yeah. And I'd love to join WEAC.
Okay.
Yeah.
That would be great. The Norfolk County Board, they meet quarterly and they have a remote option.
nice.
So.
Sure.
Or you can go to the Aggie School.
Okay.
Which is interesting. Is everybody content if we have Erin on WEAC and Norfolk County Advisory Board? I'll hang on to the Lean Process Board. Are we content with that? Yep,
Do we
okay.
need someone on PBC,
No,
even moving forward? Or wait until,
So PBC is appointed by the moderator.
right? This is a liaison,
Yeah, it's a liaison. So I don't think
so no?
too much goes on at the PBC without this board knowing about it by the various members that are on it.
All right.
So,
You know,
okay, so I guess, do we need a vote on that, Pat?
I think you do. I think you
Okay.
should.
All right, so let me, do you want to encapsulate it, Erin?
Sure, we're going to appoint select boards to, we're going to leave the appointments as is, except that Marianne Cummings is going to roll off of the Norfolk County Advisory Board, and Erin Sibley will take her place as liaison. And I have offered to be the liaison to the Westwood Environmental Action Committee. And otherwise, I think that the liaison appointments will stay as they are currently.
Is that sufficient, Pat?
It is for me.
Excellent. Well done.
Need a second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
It's a unanimous vote in favor. Thank you very much. Good discussion. And now we are going to have a further discussion on select board values and town administrator goals. This is a continued discussion from our last meeting. I believe we all submitted comments and feedback to Connor individually, and I will turn this over to you, Connor.
Sure, thanks, Mary Ann. So, as the board's aware, we started a discussion at your last meeting in May around my suggestion that we would consider adopting kind of value level statements or a mission statement, something of that nature, to help inform my own obligation to you under my employment agreement to deliver kind of annual performance goals by the end of July. We started that conversation, got some preliminary feedback from each of the members, which was great. One of the things that was asked was to provide some examples, and so the select board was provided with, and even the fact that there's no uniform standard says something in and of itself, that it's really custom to each community, but provided you with mission, vision, and guiding principles from Chelmsford, select board goals and values of Concord, borrowed from my prior community in Easton, statements of the ethics of the select board, statement of values of the select board, mission and ethics and protocol statements of the select board in Reading, as well as the town of Wellesley select board value statements. Just as examples, provided the board with a summary of some of your kind of existing policy level guiding values, by the nature of those being environmental plans or finance policies. Those are kind of very specific rather than broad, but still I think helpful. And just looking for any additional feedback from the board as far as if you want me to draft something for your next meeting, if you have further questions or thoughts, concerns, you name it. So I'll put it back to you, Mary Ann.
Yep, you bet. Let me ask you, Joe and Erin, any comments, questions, thoughts you want to share at this point?
I think this is a great exercise, and I guess I sort of was wondering, I mean, one of the things that I had sort of on my list when I was coming in was also kind of adopting, not just for the select board and the town administrator, but also for all town appointed and elected boards, sort of what they say, statement of values or ethics or something like that. I think maybe we want to even make it broader so that this applies to other boards and commissions. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I think one of
If it doesn't already exist, I understand, I'm not sure something already exists.
That's a good question. I can't speak for each of those boards. I mean, there's a few pieces there. Some boards have statutory kind of charges that they're given by state law or charter. Others are ad hoc boards that have charges and kind of mission statements that you as a select board, as their appointing authority, charge them with, like the FS1 committee. I think one of the potential values of the board adopting it is that sets the tone for others. I think something a board could do, if you wanted, as a process and to get that feedback, is if you suppose develop a draft, you could then share that or ask us to share that with the chairs of every board and committee and say the board is considering adopting these as Westwood's values. If you have any feedback as chairs or as boards, please get it to us by X and or come to this meeting and have that discussion.
Okay.
To be inclusive of that, for sure.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I agree.
And get their feedback too, and sort of, their input as well.
Mm-hmm. Joe?
No, I'm good.
Okay. I agree. I think this is a great exercise, and I think your point is well taken, that there's a lot of diversity in the various examples that you gave us. Some of them were quite voluminous, right?
Yes.
And some were a little bit briefer. I tend to like the briefer, cleaner versions, so that I think it really highlights what we're trying to say and it doesn't get bogged down in a lot of verbiage. So, for example, I liked the Chelmsford mission statement and vision statement. And Below that, they had their guiding principles. I also liked the Wellesley value statements, setting forth what the values are: collaborative leadership, integrity, and trust, respect, strategic thinking, commitment to outcomes, inclusivity, responsibility. I like that kind of clean statement. So that's, and it seems like Erin is agreeing with me
I
on
do
that.
agree, yeah, some of them are just like a little too much.
Right, if it takes you, 10 minutes and you've got to wade through it, we want to be accountable, we want it to be accessible.
Right.
So I think if it could be a nice, clean 1 or 2 pager, it might really be impactful. Joe, do you have any thoughts on that?
What do we do with it?
This is going to be a guiding statement for us as a board and for residents to see what our values are. And it's something that we're going to strive to meet.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, more, I guess tactically, what value it has to myself and staff is that it helps how we think about for projects facing the towns, priorities facing the towns, or what are not priorities, right? I mean, you cited Wellesley's commitment to outcomes, right? Are we being outcome focused, process focused? Are we being, not that those are mutually exclusive, right? But, yeah, I mean, I think it's a helpful guiding document. It's not something you can kind of take and say this replaces a budget or anything. I just think it's helpful to, perhaps I'm just betraying my management thinking here. But I believe it would be helpful for myself as your new town administrator to see and hear from a board. And if you'd like, I could bring a draft that's short, that I'll obviously need people to help me with since I'm terrible at being succinct to the board, and we could socialize it to the boards you appoint and some of your other elected boards and get feedback. And from there will be a much more technical document that flows from that, which is my goals that I would bring to the board this summer.
I also think this ties in with something I said a couple meetings ago, which is, where there is so much chaos now in the world, in our federal government. I think, local government can be a place where we really live out our democratic principles. And I think residents would appreciate seeing what the values of its local government are. And that hopefully in adopting them, we can instill a little bit of faith in government.
I agree. And by making it short, I think that will force us to focus on the things that are the most important.
Fair point.
Yeah.
Does that give you enough guidance?
Yes.
Brevity?
Yes.
Thank you, Connor. Okay. I look forward to the continued discussion. Moving on to our next agenda item, review of select board dates. And with my apology, I realized after our last meeting that I had misunderstood what the week of our family reunion week. So I have a conflict with the August 10th meeting. And we were looking, Tish, at August 3rd or
Maybe August
24th
3rd.
as potential options.
When is the July meeting?
July 13th.
Okay, so July 13th, just for spacing it out.
And I'm sorry about
few
that.
weeks.
I apologize.
I think I could do the 3rd or the 24th.
Which is better, do you think, based on tonight's discussion?
The third,
3rd?
I have a slight preference for the 3rd, yeah.
Okay.
as it pertains to the August 5th deadline for
Yeah.
the
Right.
ballot.
Joe, how does
Doesn't
that
mean you
work
can't
for
add a
you?
date, but
Fine.
Actually, it may end up working out better than the 10th anyway.
Yep.
Okay, well, thank you
So
very
we're
much.
changing, I'm sorry,
August-
17th.
To the August 10th to August 3rd.
August 3rd.
so.
Wait a minute, I've got August 17th.
That was the
a
first,
that we
Yeah,
had.
that's what it was first.
Okay, so
This
it's,
is the third time and the right time.
I had a
promise.
conflict on the 17th.
And I did it, I did too.
so we're going with August 3rd?
August 3rd.
Great.
Excellent.
Thank you. And we, next item is Select Board Liaison reports. I did want to report that I attended Human Rights Task Force meeting on Friday. There is a coalition to combat hate speech that the schools have put together, and they are looking for community input from this board.
What's the date on that, Mary Ann?
Yeah, they have 2 meetings coming up this week. I have conflicts with both of them. So I wanted to mention this to you to see if maybe one of you could attend. The first one conflicts with the police recruitment meeting tomorrow night. I believe it starts at 6:30 in the Little Theater. And the second one is on June 4th. I think it is at from 9 to 10:30. Let me double check that, bear with me. I have a note, it's the morning of the 4th. I will find the time, exact time, I think it's 9 to 10:30. So I did want to mention that, and that this is a very important,
That's this week.
yep, 2
Tomorrow
meetings
night.
this week.
Tomorrow night or Thursday morning?
Tomorrow night's the police thing, right?
Correct.
Plan on attending that.
Yep. So we also just want to encourage, I don't know if somebody can pull up, I think I can while I'm sitting here, the exact time, but we do want to encourage all residents to participate in those meetings. They will be at the Little Theater at the high school. And I will,
Could those get put on the town calendar? Because that weren't on there this morning. If
Maybe
it's-
on
if
the
it's-
school calendar, I'm not.
You know that on the homepage, there's like this week in Westwood, right? When I pulled it up, it wasn't on there.
Right, so that is typically,
Because it's a school thing.
yeah, and I know that's always a frustrating answer. But yes, it's because the calendar on our websites, I believe, the town's official calendar for its public boards.
Oh, okay.
But we're going to see if it's on the schools.
Or maybe on social media. Is there another way? If the public
Yeah,
isn't.
if it's
the
been
public
shared
isn't
anywhere,
invited,
we
it's
can.
Not on their calendar.
Mary Ann, what's the name of the meeting on the 4th?
bear with me just 1 second, and I'll get you that.
We can follow up with Marion, who's the point of contact for the schools?
Latifa.
We
And
can-
Danielle is going as well, so Danielle
Yeah,
can give you
Human Services will follow up with the schools tomorrow, and if there's any public information about it, we'll share it.
Yeah. If they're inviting the public, maybe social media or
It's
somewhere.
the Coalition for Combating Hate Speech. And the meeting on Thursday, June 4th is 9 a.m. to 10:30 a.m. And again, Tuesday, June 2nd, from 6:30 to 8 p.m., both in the Little Theater.
9 a.m. they said on Thursday.
Yes, 9 a.m. to 10:30 a.m.
DEP hearing that.
Sorry, I have conflicts with both of those. But I would like to be involved if I could be for future meetings.
Great.
One.
Any other liaison reports? Okay, hearing none, we'll move on to approval of minutes. We have 2 sets of minutes, minutes for May 11th and May 22nd. Start with May 11th. Any edits, additions? No, I'll entertain a motion to approve them.
I move for the select board to approve the minutes on the May 11th, 2026 meeting.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Is a unanimous vote in favor? Did you vote, Joe? I didn't hear
I
you.
did,
Okay,
yes.
sorry, babe. And minutes from May 22nd, 2026, any additions, edits?
Outstanding as usual.
Thank you, Tish. Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion.
I move for the select board to approve the minutes of the May 22nd, 2026 meeting.
There's, all in favor? Aye. It was a unanimous vote in favor. That brings us to the end of our meeting. Are there any comments from residents? None here in person. We have one devoted resident left, yet again. Any comments online, Tish? No?
No questions?
Okay, thank you. I will announce our next meeting will be June 22nd, 2026 at 6 PM here in the library, also a hybrid meeting. And at this point, the select board will be going into executive session to discuss one issue pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21A3, to discuss strategy with respect to litigation involving an employment contract, the discussion of which would have a detrimental effect on the position of the governing body if the discussion were in open session. The board will not return to open session. Do I have a motion to go into executive session?
I move to go into executive session.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
The open meeting is adjourned. Thank you very much, everyone, and good night.